So with this video, I want to talk about the field sobriety tests and how they're done, how they're used. So first things first, under Arkansas law, you don't have to take the field sobriety. And what we tell people, if you ever find yourself in this situation, the proper thing to do is to decline to take them. If I was ever pulled over and they told me to, I wouldn't do it. And the reason for that is first off, you don't have to, but second off, they're so subjective. I mean, the officer can just say whatever and you're going to fail it. And then, but the third and most important, they're designed for you to fail. And a lot of them, you're going to fail even when you're stone cold sober. Like I will tell you, my balance isn't that great. I used to run marathons. My knees have arthritis, and I probably can't even pass the one leg stand, even sitting here when I've had nothing to drink. So unfortunately, under Arkansas law, the cop's not required to get your permission to do it. He doesn't have to tell you that you have the right to refuse it. And I've even seen situations where the cop will ask, will you take it? And the driver will say, no, I will not. And he'll just say, follow my finger, and he'll just start doing it. So it is what it is. But if you were subject to it and you did it, I mean, we'll just roll with it and see what happened. Now, how the tests are actually used depends on which judge you're in front of. And my understanding of it, my interpretation of it, is that the officer has to properly conduct the field sobriety, and then that gives him the proper cause to take you in and go to the big breathalyzer and make the decision. But that's not always the case. I had one recently where the only test that they did was the eye test, and the officer did it so bad, he had the driver facing the flashing lights, and he only completed about the first third of the test and just decided the driver was too drunk to finish, which is not in the manual at all. So he just stopped the test right there and just said, that's it, and arrested him right there. And when we made that argument in front of the judge said, well, he doesn't need that. He can base it off his observations earlier. So that's one of the risks that we're always running into is how much weight is the judge going to give to it. Even when we can point out devastating mistakes with it, it's not always going to win the case. But that's the best way for us to start off with. Now, the most common tests are the eye test, and so that's where the cop's like, follow my finger, don't move your head. That's the easiest one for us to beat. Then the walk and turn, from my experience, is the hardest for us to beat. The instructions are pretty complicated, and one of the failing clues is if you have to get the instructions repeated to you, and then another failing clue is if you fail to follow it. So they're talking real fast, trying to confuse you. That's what they're taught to do in the manual. And then if you miss something or have to have them repeat it, it's evidence that you were intoxicated. So they have you do the series of steps and turn around, and most folks aren't going to be able to get it right. Just based upon it's designed to confuse the hell out of you. And then when they go and do the one leg stand, same thing. A lot of folks, especially if you're middle-aged like me or older, it's hard enough just to balance on one leg even when you haven't had a drink or two. Those are the most common three: the eye test, the walk and turn, and the one leg stand. Now, there's some others that they can do, and we do have some arguments depending on how and when they conducted it. Like sometimes where you were on the side of the road was dangerous for whatever reason. We can argue they should have taken it into the station, should have had you facing a different way, or maybe we'll see on the video there's traffic blowing by you as you're trying to do this, and we're looking for all the evidence that the field sobriety test was done wrong, or the conditions weren't right, where the test should have been conducted at another location. But that's how they work. So you have the right to refuse them. Most folks don't know that. And when you're in the stressful situation of the cops being right there, most folks are just going to do what the cop says and take a shot at it and do their best. not knowing that they're designed for you to fail. But that's why it's up to us to kind of go through very much in detail to see what the cop did right or wrong. And when I'm doing it, I look like a football coach watching tape. I play a little bit, I back it up, play a little bit, back it up, and just watching all the nuances of how they did the test. But that's in a nutshell of how the field sobriety tests work.